The Phoenix Suns are spiraling after yet another loss, this one possibly the worst of the season. We've got a lot to talk about on the other side of this. Psychos and sickos unite for a very sad edition of the PHNX Suns show, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app, use code PHNX365 when you sign up. Find out why winning is everything. I couldn't even say it because the Suns lost today at Bet365. 127-107, the Phoenix Suns pick up probably their most disappointing loss of the season. It's not our fault, so hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. First things first, I'm Eric, that's Skill. We got Steven, the freckled mamba behind the Mac, making all the magic happen. It's time to throw it on the gill.
I'm a pretty positive person. Everybody in here knows that. Those of you who watch us enough know that as well. But after tonight, I'm going to quote most of what Jordan Knott said when he picked up a technical foul, I think. What are we doing? What is this team doing right now? It's April, and in my head, I'm thinking the month of April comes the NBA postseason. We're less than 2 weeks away from the play-in tournament. Everything that happened up until this month, let's throw it out the window. Mark Williams is back. Everybody's healthy except for Amir Coffey and Haywood Highsmith. What are you going to show us? What are you going to do? And the first quarter looked like what we wanted to see. The next 3 quarters, nothing of the sort. Giving up 127 points to a very talented Hornets team that plays well offensively. I don't care if they're very talented and play well offensively. Giving up 127 points when you are 5 games away from the postseason. What are you doing? What are we doing? Got to get it together. There's another opportunity on Sunday, but this is the type of one that we're going to have to harp on for a little bit because we're not just overlooking it. No passes given, anything like that. This team must be better to have a chance to do anything worth anything this postseason.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm pretty pissed off right now. I mean, look, this is a team that I have vouched for and staunchly defended after the entire season. The entire season, right? The hustle, the heart, the energy, the grit. You could never show up against the Phoenix Suns and take them down by outworking them, right? Outplaying them. That's the identity that we all assume this team has, and hopefully deep down inside they have it, right? And while I think there is a lot to talk about rotations and maybe some coaching decisions that people don't agree with, coaching decisions that frankly I do not agree with, at the end of the day, what disappointed me the most is that coming into tonight, for the first time in literally months, you had all of your guys healthy, right? I get it. No Haywood Highsmith, no Amir Coffey, like you mentioned, Gil. I get it, right? So there were technically a couple of players on the injury report. Every single significant player for the Phoenix Suns that has played a role this season was fully healthy tonight, okay? And did they show up in the first quarter? Offensively, yes. Defensively, for the first 3 to 4 minutes. And after that, the Charlotte Hornets went on a run and the Suns had no heart and they had no response. In the most important time of the year, that is what is concerning to me. You should be getting a boost from Dillon Brooks and Mark Williams coming back. If anything, this team's playing like they're deflated. It makes no sense, and it has to change if they want any hope of just surviving the play-in, let alone making any sort of noise in a 1-8, 2-7 matchup come postseason time. Unacceptable performance from the Phoenix Suns tonight.
Yeah, shout out to everybody here early, here for this post-game show that we have. We appreciate all of y'all. I want to take some quick time to highlight a comment from Kara. Everybody in the comments, and everybody in the chat knows Kara. Obviously, we know her as well. She mentioned that you can't blame Jordan Knott for guys not having the effort. You also can't blame him for trying to make guys bigger. Like, those are just, that latter part is something that's baked into what this team is in the first season. And the former part, you can only coach but so much of that. If guys don't have it, if they're not bringing it for whatever reason it might be, that's not an indictment against coaching. And I think that's something that we need to kind of decipher between who we're or not who we're, but who people are placing the blame on. I think it's corporal punishment for this one in particular. The execution was not to the level that it needed to be. They couldn't find an answer in terms of switching or shifting the way that they approach things after the first 6 minutes of the game. And they just were trying to find themselves the entire game while also trying to play catch up after the way they closed the first half. So this one is on everybody. No one's infallible in this moment. And I think it starts with the execution level of the guys on the court, but also definitely includes the coaching staff in tonight's loss. You can't have a game like tonight where your identity, the culture you've established, doesn't show up in a meaningful capacity over the course of it and not have everybody take some portion of blame in it.
That's what's so disappointing about this loss, because in a lot of ways it's the opposite of the first time these two teams played, where you come out of the gate when Charlotte was here and it was, hey, what are you doing? For like the first 6 to 8 minutes of that game, and then the next 40, 42 minutes, the Suns like, oh, this is Phoenix Suns basketball. They're playing on our terms. Hold them under 100 points. In this game, it was, oh yeah, that first quarter was pretty impressive. We got Dillon, Jalen, Book, all clicking offensively. You're playing the game on your terms. You scored 41 points. That's probably not going to be sustainable, but when things settle in, you can settle in a little bit more. And I think what's also concerning is that the signs have been there for a while, and not like we've been over the moon with this team's performance and success and the losing streaks and the way they're losing and blowing late leads. And the one thing in common, because they've lost in a lot of different ways, we've always said, you've got to play for all 48 minutes. And that's been the issue for this team for a while now. The Suns team, though, of January and going into February before All-Star, they were playing complete games. They were playing them to their terms. And now we're kind of seeing them let the game flow dictate them. And they're not dictating the game flow. And the game gets away from them. They're not closing halves properly. They're coming out of the gates in the second half flat. Like, so many things that we are not used to seeing this team do. I think at first, like, the positivity that we were coming with isn't because we're these optimists that only have this worldview that only things can go right and like this is just some aberration. It's more so we've seen so many examples of this team doing things one way, then when they do it a different way, we're like, oh, something must be off, something's wrong. But now this team is continuing to do this, and it's a couple of weeks of these repeated mistakes and issues and behavior. It's like, all right, what's it going to take to turn it around, or is it too late? And I think that's what's concerning. I'm pretty sure you're feeling that too, Eric.
Well, and I think the problem with this season so far, and I think it's the blessing and the curse of it, is that they've earned these expectations. We've talked about it at multiple points throughout the season of like, hey, this team played good enough. Granted, guess what? Shorthanded too. Right? Like, if you go back to February 2nd, and Voida put that out there on Twitter, the Suns are 12-15. They only have better records than all tanking teams minus the Warriors. Every other team they have a better record than? The Bucks, the Kings, the Grizzlies, the Jazz, the Bulls, the Mavs, the Pacers, the Nets, the Wizards, and then the Warriors on top of that. Since February 2nd. That is 2 months ago today. Right? So that is an extended period of time. That's pre-All-Star break. This team is 3 games under 500. Before that, they had missed Grayson Allen for a significant amount of time, Devin Booker for a significant amount of time, Jalen Green for basically the entire season at that point, right? They were dealing with a lot of the similar adversity that they're dealing with over those last 2 months, because today's the first day that they had everybody back. And what did they do? They had this baseline, the standard for execution and for effort. And I will talk about the coaching decisions, because I do agree with people where Jordan Ott cannot change who players are, their height, their weight, and cannot just go up to somebody and say, you need to play better. But I do believe there are buttons that he could push to fix, or at least in theory, attempt to fix some of the blatant problems that we are seeing this team deal with, specifically tonight. And it's everything married together all at once. And that is what is concerning to me, Steven. It is not just the Suns are shooting 20% from 3 over the last couple of weeks. That should even out in whatever over the postseason. It's not the Suns are getting screwed over by the refs, or the Suns are going through and facing the hardest teams in the league, even though they face some good competition. It's not, hey, we're shorthanded and we're injured. It's, where's the heart? Where's the defense? Top 5 defense going into January. Where the hell is that? Who are you? Because now is the time that you get gut checked. The end of April and the play-in, this is the time that you are supposed to be proving who you are, not figuring it out. Injuries aside, I don't care about who's on the court. This team had a standard and they failed to meet it tonight.
They did, but the defense, Kerry kind of brings up a point I'm getting to. You can't put that one on. You can say you can put other guys in the game. Yes, true, but guys still got to guard the basketball. If you put Rasheer Fleming, if you put Ryan Dunn, if Hayward Highsmith was available, you're not going to be running lineups with all three of those guys and Dillon Brooks on the court to where it doesn't matter who's bringing the ball up the court. You have a plus-size wing that has athleticism and space to guard the ball full court and set that tone for your defense every possession. That being said, it starts there. If it's the defense that we're speaking to that's the main culprit, and I have more to get to on that shortly, it starts at the point of attack. Guys aren't getting it done to the extent that they need to. Independent of scheme, take scheme out the window. Don't even think about scheme. The most simple terms of defense, you stay in front of your man and the basket. You keep your teammates out of help. You keep your teammates out of help. You keep your defense out of making half or full rotations. Stay out of half and full rotations. You force the team to play in the shot clock. You force them to play later in the shot clock. The shot quality dwindles percentage by percentage the closer you get to zero. That's where the Suns usually force a ton of turnovers and they get out and run. Not forcing turnovers is one thing that I've been speaking to the last 2 weeks, speaking to their general defensive barometer. If the turnover forced are low, it's either they're forcing teams late in the clock or their defense is just not where it needs to be. And it's been that last point lately. And the other part of that too, which was a main culprit for tonight's game in particular, first stops are awesome if that's the only stop that you have to get. If you have to try to defend a team 2 and 3 times in one singular possession, and you have to do that multiple times over the course of 48 minutes, that's a war of attrition that most teams can't make up for. And the Suns haven't been offensive rebounding to the extent that they showed to at the earlier portions of the season as well. So, grand scheme picture, the multiple effort dynamic that's usually been a weapon for them, they've been succumbed to for a lack of effort on their end. And that's not something that we're accustomed to seeing. That's why I don't panic too much. But I think the context of timing of the season with which these things are showing up as issues is definitely something to have an eyebrow raised at.
So I understand what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying, but I think that a lot of people are probably either thinking this in their head, or I think some people screaming it or typing it in the chat is, there feels like there are solutions for some of the problems that you said. Going into tonight, where's the point of attack defense, right? Well, Ryan Dunn played 3 minutes tonight. They were all in garbage time. I would consider Ryan Dunn one of the better point of attack defenders on this team. Rasheer Fleming played 8 minutes tonight, pretty much just 3 or 4 in the actual important part of the game. Also hit a 3, but we're talking about where's the defense, where's the size, the rebounding. Those are also 2 of those guys, Ryan Dunn, Rasheer Fleming, that, hey, they're getting offensive rebounds, right? Kaman Malawach doesn't play until garbage time tonight. I get it. Mark Williams back, Oso Ighodaro back. Kaman Malawach has been a good defensive player. He's not been what he will be in the future, but he's been solid, and he's a big dude. He can usually help with the rebounding. Gil, it feels like there are solutions out there and those buttons aren't being pressed.
There you go.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
The thing is, though, okay, so we get back to the same kind of if-then kind of conversation. So if those guys are playing minutes or more minutes, then who is losing minutes? And what's the domino effect of certain guys that people like to point the finger at to lose minutes? What's the domino effect of the team's level of play in accordance with that?
I think that if you're looking at it tonight, you look at Collin Gillespie and Grayson Allen as 2 guys that when they're going offensively, they're great, right? And I know there's a big problem with the starting lineup. A lot of people keeping Collin Gillespie in. I know you've even spoken to wanting to maybe see a bigger unit out there than those 3 guards starting. I think they both deserve significant rotation minutes. But tonight, I don't think that Grayson Allen was his best defensively. He was okay offensively, 2 of 6 from deep, 4 of 10 from the field. But I didn't feel like he was out there, changing the game offensively. The same way with Collin. We will celebrate him later in the show because he absolutely deserves it. 6 points for Collin tonight on 2 of 7 shooting from the field, all coming from deep. When you cannot stop somebody, right, and you are putting out 2 guys that I don't believe are terrible defenders, but they are not game-changing defenders, especially in forcing turnovers a lot of the times, that's who I would say lose 5 minutes. I'm not saying start Ryan Dunn. I would be intrigued by starting Rasheer Fleming. I get why they don't do it. I would understand if Kaman plays, 8 minutes in a game instead of 15 or 20, but it just does feel like it's like, can we go see it? Plus, Rasheer's been great since he's been in the rotation. We've talked about it. We've built shows around it. Ryan Dunn, these last couple of games through the injuries, has been great, I think, especially on rebounding and defense. So it's not like there's nothing that we've seen from those guys that feel like they can make up for it. I would be fine losing a couple minutes from Collin Gillespie and from Grayson Allen when they don't have it, or Royce O'Neal when he doesn't have it, in favor of some size and some defense, especially in a game like tonight.
I'll just say real quick before you go, Gil. The thing, and this is the domino effect that I'm speaking to, take tonight's game template for a game against Charlotte, playoff style defense. Charlotte likes to get in gaps early. They like to shrink the floor on guys. If Devin Booker and Jalen Green aren't seeing the lanes to attack to the extent that they need to, you don't get that 41-point quarter that you got to start the game. So if you start the game, let's say that 41 turns into 24, 25, 26. It's a big difference in the game's flow and the game's rhythm. Now you can say, yes, your defense might be a little bit better, but you have to have a balance with it. And I think they just haven't achieved that balance, especially in this recent stretch of games. Tonight was a direct example, 41 in the first. Didn't score even close to that in either of the 3 quarters that came after that the rest of the game. Some of that does stem from the defense for sure, but I think the functionality part of their offense is why we continue to see Jordan Knott trot out these 3-guard lineups. You maintain your spacing, you give your top-tier guys, like you have a team identity for sure, but you also have to make sure you're counterbalancing that with putting your offensive guys in a position to be as successful as they can be. If Jalen Green and Devin Booker are dealing with help all season long, now it's the same thing Jalen had to deal with in Houston if he spent a lot of time on the court with the Rasheer and the Ryan Dunn, because respect to both of those guys, they're doing the work they need to, but the results haven't been to a level where a defender or a team game plan-wise is going to say, we can't just load up the blocks and elbows when those 2 guys are on the floor because they're going to make us pay. That's what teams say when Collin Gillespie and Grayson Allen are out there, even if they both knock down 4 for 12 combined in a game on tonight like this. So you have to find a little bit more balance for sure, but it can't just be taking minutes from those guys. If that's what's going to be happening, you have to find more creative ways to do it in your game plan.
And that's what we've been talking about for these last games, that, you can find some right answers in losses. And I think that is this game, like there is nothing positive that you can take away from what they tried. And I do expect them to try something different. Maybe Sunday's game isn't necessarily the biggest test, but you still got some playoff-ready opponents remaining on the schedule that are still playing for something, at least as we talk right now, that you can try to press those buttons and employ some different things and figure some things out. But then like you think about the balance. Offensively, the floor spacing, allowing Jalen to have space to operate. He had a good game tonight because of that in a lot of ways. And I think about defensively, though, 2 things that stand out. You got dominated on the glass, 47-31 in this game. And the other thing that I think about defensively, how many times when we were watching the game did I say, you can't lose him, you can't lose him, you can't lose him? And that was in reference to Concanipple and Brandon Miller, where they got some of the cleanest looks they've probably seen in the last 10 to 15 games. And a lot of that starts with the LaMelo Ball. And I talked about the issues that he provides uniquely with his size and player profile and his ability to get into the lane and make plays in an unorthodox way. But the slow rotations, or being a half step slow on the rotations, I think it was Spike that said it, was saying that coaching is to tell guys what to do. No, coaching is to put guys in position to make the right read and make the right decision and make the right play. And I think the issue now is, why are they not making the right reads? Mm-hmm. Why are they not making the right decisions? Why are they not making the right plays? That is where the disconnect is coming. That's where we're kind of confused and disappointed, because for so long this season, we've seen them make the correct reads and plays and decisions. So that is something that they're going to have to figure out. And they got less than 2 weeks to do it.
Yeah, I think the concerning part is that it's a little bit of everything. I don't think anybody's the scapegoat. I don't think there's one direct solution. But I think that's what's fun, unfortunately, about stuff like this, is that we could talk it out, and we're going to continue to talk about this. I'm having a lot of fun, even through the anger. I'm going to keep on having it on the other side of our first break. You know what's not fun? Gas prices. Yeah,
man.
We all know it.
Oh, my Lord.
But thank the Lord for our friends over at Circle K, because they're helping you save every single day when it comes to gas. Start off with 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups when you join the Inner Circle for free, by the way. And then you can start off at 3 cents off per gallon every day, then go up to 5 cents off per gallon every time that you fill up. And every once in a while, boom, they'll throw in a little Inner Circle Fuel Day. How about 40 cents off per gallon? It might rise 40 cents overnight at this rate, but guess what? You're going to get that 40 cents off the next day with an Inner Circle Fuel Day. Plus, you can save a bunch of money on food, like $3, $4, and $6 meal deals, plus a bunch of drinks in there that are also Inner Circle exclusive deals with Circle K exclusive flavors. At the end of the day, Circle K is the best place for you to fill up on gas. Even though gas is getting expensive, they want to help you out every step of the way. So join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for full details. Want to forget about those gas prices or the Phoenix Suns losing streak? Might I recommend Casamigos, baby, because Casamigos is the drink of the World Cup, so grab your friends, fans, and frenemies together one Casamigos ready-to-go margarita at a time. Made with the best simple ingredients, Casamigos ready-to-go margarita has Blanco tequila, lime juice, and natural flavors. They're sure to rival any of your favorite hangout spots. Just uncork, pour over ice, and garnish with a lime. It's just that easy, plus only 110 calories per serving, and it's made with real juice, none of that fake stuff. Plus, of course, they know that everybody's got their different tastes and different flavors that they like, so it comes in that classic lime margarita, or if you want to get spicy, well, go ahead and get spicy with a spicy margarita. No matter who you're supporting, say cheers to the Casamigos ready-to-go margarita here with the World Cup, and pair it with your World Cup watch party. Casamigos, the drink of the World Cup, whether you're at your favorite spot or stocking up at home, make it Casamigos, and make it Casamigos ready-to-go a margarita in classic lime or spicy. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. The Phoenix Suns lose again. They play again on Sunday, so a couple of days off. Easter, an early game on Easter. Hopefully the Suns
at the crib
can wake up a little bit and
They're on the
rise
Gillespie tour.
on Easter.
The Gillespie tour.
They are on the Gillespie tour.
This is true, though. This is very true.
So I want to keep on having this conversation because I think this is fascinating, and I think this is the conversation that's going on in a lot of Suns fans' minds. I think people feel very strongly about it. And the point that I want to respond to you, Steven, about, you know, the offensive side of the ball of tapping into Ryan Dunn or Rasheer Fleming, or Sam, you know, saying, hey, when do you want that to happen? I understand that there's not a perfect solution here. I think some people think it's pretty cut and dry, but that's the intriguing part about this roster. Is there's a lot of really good players. I wouldn't say there's a lot of elite, great players, right? And most teams don't have that, but this team's particularly deep. I don't think that there is a world, or there should be a world, where, given how impactful Rasheer has been on both sides of the ball, you've done film studies, we've watched the games together with everybody so many times, that he is not getting early second quarter or late first quarter burn. Because if he's hitting his threes, which, by the way, he was 1 of 1 tonight, and he's locking up defensively, I get that there are spacing issues, but he has been good. That's the thing, is this is not a theory of Rasheer Fleming. We've seen him be good. Ryan, a little shakier of a season, but defensively, I think he's solid. I don't feel like those guys should be completely iced out until the game is feeling out of control, especially when you go up against a team like Charlotte, who's a great offensive rebounding team, one of the best in the league. And when they're going, you can tell because they're going. They scored 33 points in the first quarter, right? That's a lot of points, even if you scored 41. I need to see them a little more consistently in there, at least for a couple of a minute stretch, and see how it works, because I do think the scorers on this team are talented enough to overcome the offensive deficiencies that might come with those two players. Specifically, more talking about wanting Rasheer in there consistently.
For sure. I was going to say, we just had a conversation a week or two ago about Ryan Dunn just not being in the rotation once the team gets closer to healthy. So take that part out the picture, and if he is in the picture, those minutes are likely to go to Haywood Highsmith before Ryan, just off of how we've seen the rotations develop over the last month of games. That part aside, though, looking at the Rasheer Fleming part, yes, he should play more. But again, it just comes back to who is it that he's going to be taking minutes from. You can't say he's taking minutes from the guards, because those are two complete different positions. Grayson plays the three a little bit at times, but he doesn't spend a majority of his minutes there. Honestly, if any of their guards are spending more time at the three this season, it's been Devin Booker. And if you know the conversations we had when Frank Vogel was around and how people felt about Devin having to defend threes and three-guard lineups and things like that over the course of a full season. That being said, Rasheer can play more for sure. He definitely should have played probably more tonight, which is why I said that this one is also on coaching. I think you have to find a way to get Rasheer more minutes. Maybe you play a little bit more small ball. That's been the outlet for you finding more minutes for him and doing so consistently in your rotation. But to say he played, 8 minutes tonight?
Yeah, and I think at least 5 of those were in garbage.
And 5 were definitely in garbage time. So, yes, Rasheer has to play more for sure, but you have to find another way to get him minutes, because I don't think you want to have to play the domino effect game of we don't have our shooters and spacers out there, and it's now bleeding into the impact of Jalen Green and Devin Booker offensively.
I think when we talk a lot about lineups and the personnel and the roster, obviously this team has dealt with an unfathomable amount of injuries this year. Yeah. But the types of lineups that they've been employing and that they continue to employ aren't really different from what we've seen all year. So I think that's where it kind of comes to the conversation that we're having. Yes, I think guys have earned more time and earned more consideration and should be playing more. I agree with that. But I think it kind of brings us back to the root of the issue, and it isn't the rotation. It's the fact of what these guys are doing with their minutes, the execution, and how they're making the time. And ultimately, I don't think it's me being like rosy and super positive by saying that everybody needs to play better, because you think about teams and you see teams that go deep, and there are teams that will play 9, 10, 11 guys, which is something that this Suns team is capable of doing, because we're like, oh, who's not going to play? And there's so many guys who are deserving of minutes. But when teams do that, the reason they do that and the way they keep guys fresh, they're sustaining a certain standard of play. They're sustaining a certain level of effort, whether it's on offense or defense, whether it's offensive execution, whether it's rebounding, whether it's knowing your assignments, rotations. And the problem that I don't understand what the root of it is, why is it not that sharp? Why is it not that sharp at this time of the year? Sure, can you say it's been a long time for Dillon, a long time for Mark? Maybe they're a little rusty. I mean, aside from like some chemistry stuff, I don't really think that what they were or weren't doing was like the first issue I'm pointing at.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is the thing? Why are guys a step slow? Are they just tired from playing that way for so long this season? And how can they fix it with less than 2 weeks left in the season? That's what's concerning to me, because this is supposed to be your strength, just your strength in numbers that we've said a lot. And those guys aren't doing what you've come to expect from them.
Yeah, again, and that's why I think it's fascinating in like a watching a car crash kind of way, where you wonder what buttons when they're pushed would fix this, right? Because I know Sam is in the chat, and Sam is awesome, and he's great, and he thinks things through all the time. And it's like, hey, this isn't a rotations thing. You have other people in the chat who are like, this is the most rotations thing, the most coaching thing ever. And realistically, it's a middle ground here. Yes, they're playing the same guys that they've been playing all season, right? Again, every single player who's played a significant role for the Suns this year was healthy tonight. And yes, they are primarily a smaller lineup. And yes, when you play forwards, yeah, that takes away minutes from your guards, right? I would say maybe try to lean into a bigger lineup every once in a while. We've seen them lean into small ball. I thought it worked. I don't know. I mean, maybe throw Rasheer out there a little bit tonight. It's tough because I don't envy the position Jordan Ott is in, right? I think Jordan Ott has done a fantastic job as head coach for the Suns this year. I think more often than not, he's pushed the right buttons. I don't think you get to this point where the Suns will at minimum finish the season over 500, given the set of circumstances that he's also had to go through as far as injuries this season. You don't get here if he's not a good coach. Jordan Ott did not just forget how to coach. I get that people are frustrated. This is a difficult decision, and he's been put in a hard spot with these injuries. I just feel like the in-game decisions of, hey, we're getting torched, right? Maybe try to push this button a little bit more. Hey, we're giving up a bunch of offensive rebounds. Let's try to go a little bit big, because we've seen them really lean into super small ball, specifically against Orlando, and yes, sometimes it works, but we have not seen these like otherworldly results that are leading to wins, right? So if you're going to experiment, I like to try to experiment with a little bit more size and a little bit more athleticism, especially when most of the teams you're going to be facing come postseason time have a lot of size and athleticism, which has been a problem for you recently.
Who's providing the size though?
I mean, it's like Rasheer's kind of the big one for me, where it's like, I don't see a reason for Rasheer to be out of the rotation. I get that you have to choose people to play, but if there's going to be a sacrifice at some of these other players, like if Royce needs to play a couple of less minutes, especially when he wasn't even shooting threes tonight. He was 1 of 2 from deep. I think Royce is better than a lot of people give him credit for. I don't think Royce is infallible to the point that he should automatically be in the rotation over a guy like Rasheer Fleming and getting 17 minutes of time when Rasheer's getting 2 to 3. Right? Because there are certain things Royce can't bring, and they can play together too. To me, Rasheer's this big thing of like, what do we lack? Athleticism, size, and what do we need with that size? We need shooting. Rasheer's shooting about 40% from 3 post All-Star break. He's been consistent in his role in about 20 minutes per game. Hell, sometimes he's gotten closer to 25 minutes in these last couple of weeks. And the defensive impact has just been nuts, to the point that we sing here and we praise him all the time. That's the guy to me that's like, at least try to throw him in there. That's what I want to see. But I get it. You've got about 12 guys that could probably play in the rotation, and you can't just be playing 12 guys every night, Gil, leading up into the postseason.
So I'm thinking about it as we're running through names and, reading names that people are saying, reading suggestions that people are saying. Let's just go through like the standard lineup, right? Like, I think that we would all agree that the 3 guys you fully expect to be on the court, not just in the lens of starting, but just when you want to have your best 5 guys out there or put together your best 5 lineup, it's going to be Devin Booker, Jalen Green, and Dillon Brooks. And then Mark Williams, once he's healthy enough to do that. So then you talk about it, Rasheer kind of finishing that group of 5 out. But then I start thinking about the practice and execution. That kind of puts a lot more initiating back on to Devin and Jalen. That's kind of what we talked about out there when we were talking about Collin must be out there to not play make, but to initiate so those guys can operate away from the ball and kind of operate in those spaces. And I think the question there now is, obviously you're gaining size, but are you okay with sacrificing their playing off the ball in large spots because there's not really another initiator out there for them? Or do you, until Oso is not in a lineup anymore, how much do you trust him to initiate? Because we've seen him initiate in spots as well. So I think that there is an answer for how do you switch things up, but then the solution to the more questions that come with that, with, okay, the way we've seen Jalen and Devin start to kind of find a little bit of a balance and chemistry, or how they want to play off one another, how they want to operate when they're both on the court together with an initiator. Okay, now how does that change if now the initiation goes to them? And I'm not saying that they are incapable of doing that, but I am saying that, listen, if this is something that they're going to want to figure out and a button that they're going to want to press, time is, again, winding down from to figure that out. And I'll be honest with you, winner-take-all playing game is not the time to try to find that out.
Yeah, to that point, Gil, I go back to Jordan Knox's introductory presser. And he talks about having multiple initiators of offense with the goal in mind of getting into your offense with 23, 22, 21 seconds left. Not 16, not borderline 15, and then you organize yourself, and then you get to your first point of attack with 9 or 8 seconds left. Dillon Brooks can initiate an offense. We've seen him do it. We saw him do it in the first preseason game, and people were like, what in the world? Dillon Brooks is playing point guard? No, he's not playing point guard. He's just a guy that can assume that position when the team needs him to do that for them to get into their offense most efficiently. I doubt teams are going to be pressing Dillon Brooks full court. If they're doing that, you have a lot you can work with in advantage on the other side of that press. Teams not doing that allows you an opportunity to get into your offense efficiently. Devin Booker and Jalen Green are not traditional point guards. I think we all understand that. That means that if you can get them off the ball to start things, you start to be able to kind of organize things a little bit more easily. Dillon Brooks, not typically, he's probably, of those 3, he's the guy that takes the least amount of shots early in the shot clock. Dillon Brooks is a play finisher for the Suns and through. Usually gets the ball on the second side or third or fourth side after they've run 2 to 3 actions and a single-digit number of seconds on the clock, and now it's about your ones. How quickly can you get to your spot? How quickly can you get up a high efficiency shot for your game? You can kind of reorganize things like that. I think they've lost a little bit of the rhythm and flow with that in particular, naturally because this is only Dillon's second game back. But just generally speaking, it feels like we've seen a lot more of Devin, Jalen, Collin, and Grayson initiating offense with a little bit of Oso at times, when I feel like they can get back to the point guard by committee, and I put it in air quotes, just to get them into their points of attack. If you want to run your pistol 5, you can run that pistol 5 actually with any one of those guys that I mentioned. It doesn't have to be Devin, Jalen, or Dillon to do that. You get to that quicker, what does that allow for you to do on the backside of your offense, which is getting guys in the blender and getting the shot quality that you want?
I absolutely think that Collin, Gillespie, Jalen Green, and Devin Booker should play minutes together every game. I'm not the type of person that's like, you can never have those 3 guys out there at the same time, Gil. I am looking at this starting lineup, and especially these last couple of games, specifically the Orlando one stands out the most because Orlando's a very big team. I mean, Charlotte's a big team too, but they immediately started putting Collin Gillespie in action, looking for him on switches and attacking him. And Collin's a very pesky defender, but Collin is also getting a lot of usage offensively, dribbling the ball a lot. He's played more minutes this year than his entire career. I don't think he's been as impactful on this backslide of the season defensively as he has been the first half. I think he's still solid, but he's small. You can't teach that. Part of the way to find a bigger guy more minutes, right? Whether it even is a Royce alongside a Dillon Brooks, who is bigger, guards different than Collin Gillespie, or if it is, I know putting Rasheer in the starting lineup, it's not going to happen at this point, but in theory, that type of guy is you bring Collin off to the bench, you skew some more bench-heavy guard minutes, you use this small counterpunch to kind of throw teams off guard, instead of starting small, letting another team get in the rhythm, and then you try to bring in defense in as a counterpunch. So, again, I don't think it's perfect, but I do look at that starting lineup and wonder, is it best for both parties, Collin and the Suns, for him to go back to the super six-man role that he was supposed to play this year and inject a little bit of more size into the starting lineup, whether that's Rasheer or Royce or even Grayson?
I, for one, fully expected him to be back in the second unit at this point, especially just thinking about the fact that he's thrived in that role, thinking about the idea of being one of the spark plugs and initiators for the reserve unit. I was a little surprised at this point that he's still there. And even like a couple weeks ago, it was like that picture they posted of them practicing in San Antonio or in Texas. And it was the five who we assumed would be the starting unit eventually. But yeah, I think the question I was thinking about is like, what if they make that change and then the same issues persist?
Yeah. Well, and I think there is a question that I want to ask you guys about that starting lineup specifically. I promise we'll get to some of the good news from tonight. It kind of sucks. Collin Gillespie, broke a record in a game that was pretty disappointing. We're going to give him his flowers. We'll talk about our dude of the night, our blue collar boy, Mark Williams' return, and so much more. We'll get into that, but we got a little more negativity on the other side of our second break. Nothing negative about the husband and wife law team, because you need to do your research after an accident or a serious injury, because the lawyer you hire, they matter. And Mark and Alexis Breyer, well, they're going to make sure that you feel taken care of and that you matter over at the husband and wife law team. Their team brings hundreds of years of combined trial experience with multiple certified specialists in personal injury and wrongful death. And a certified specialist, by the way, in Arizona, less than 1% of all lawyers are specialists in injury and wrongful death litigation. They are experienced and specialized, equipped to handle everything about your case, but it's not just about them. And of course, it's not about the money with husband and wife law team. That's why they're happy to make you and all their other clients guarantees, like guarantees that you can cancel your fee agreement at any time for any reason, a guarantee that you'll receive at least as much in your pocket as they receive for their fee, even if they reduce their attorney's fee to do so, and a guarantee they may speak with one of their lawyers as often as you choose about anything you'd like to discuss. So if you've had a serious injury, call the husband and wife law team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their website at the link in our show notes and tell them that PHNX sent you. Look, there's a lot of sports going on right now, which means a lot of people are watching a lot of TV. Go sports, go Sling TV, one of the most flexible ways to watch live TV. Now you get more control over how and when you tune into the news, shows, and obviously sports. Sling TV came out with a game-changing way to watch live TV. They have flexible 1, 3, or 7-day pass subscriptions that give you instant access and lets you watch the sports you want your way. It's perfect for the last 2 games of the college basketball tournament. You can get access to the last 4 of the national championships starting at just $4.99. And after the tournament is done, keep those passes in mind for NBA and NHL playoffs, and of course, the upcoming WNBA season. With both daily and weekly plans, Sling TV truly has something for everyone's lifestyle. So if you want to watch the Suns in the play-in, want to watch more NBA playoffs, the beginning of the WNBA season, NHL, of course, the MLB is going on right now. Live TV, it's your way. Learn more at sling.com. Sling us a like. Sling us a subscribe. We're going to get to your super chats here in a second. I'm really enjoying this conversation. It feels like basketball therapy. And I appreciate those of you who are therapizing with us in the chat.
Don't you hear my rates, bro?
Wow.
We are the cheapest therapists that you've ever seen in your entire life.
Speak for yourself. I'm sending that bill in the mail.
That invoice is
in
on
about
the
4
way.
business days.
Here's the invoice. The invoice is a like, a subscribe, and you could become a member today if you're really feeling
The whole
feeling generous.
the trio. Need all 3.
A question for both of you. So we talk a lot about how the Suns team has gone through a lot of adversity when it comes to injuries, a lot of players going in and out of the lineup. Well, one guy that's not been that has been Collin Gillespie. Do you feel like I don't want to say stubbornness, but the resistance to take Collin Gillespie away from the starting lineup has to do with holding on to the maybe one piece of continuity that you've had in a season full of discontinuity?
I think it's a little bit of that. I also go back to the conversation that we had when we realized that it was going to be, well, at that time, it was Grayson Allen with Devin Booker and Jalen Green with Dillon Brooks and Mark Williams against the Clippers in Jalen Green's debut with the Suns in the regular season. I bring that point up because it feels like for me, it's a little bit of the continuity points you bring up, which is very relevant. But I think in alignment with the continuity, I think it feels like Jordan Knott and company wants a certain type of identity with the offensive-minded starting unit. So I know I've been one of the loudest on they can use a little bit of counterbalance, a little bit of defensive balance to make that lineup a little more even and setting tones. It feels like the staff itself, maybe the numbers that they're privy to that we just don't have access to, and the way they see it play out over the game even more so, maybe they envision some 41-point quarters like we saw tonight. Like, yeah, cool, they gave up 33, but they scored 41. Their reserves come in to start the second quarter, and they start to build off of their identity. And it's almost like you get the best of both worlds. You get an offensive-minded unit to set a tone for the terms of play on offense, which is in alignment with your two best players. And then you get your reserve units coming in to counterpunch with that in a different approach with the defense and all of the impact on the margins that they've shown to provide. Issue is execution-wise, it has not been there enough for that particular approach to reap the benefits, to be having the benefits reaped in terms of your game flow. And I think that's where they've been kind of caught in limbo a little bit. And by them being caught in limbo, we've seen some uneven results to start a game, but we've also seen uneven results to close halves and close quarters, which is another big part of this thing.
You saying that made me curious. You guys remember the last time Collin Gillespie came off the bench?
Oh, what was it like?
Was it when he returned from his thumb injury? Oh my God.
What was it? December?
My guess is the
November?
Timberwolves game. He hit the game winner.
November 29th against the Nuggets.
Okay.
Wow.
So it's pretty crazy. I was looking, and this is just a wild coincidence. His first start of the season was my first show.
Oh wow!
With my and
so you're the blame.
So 56 of the 57 games that he's played in since I've been here, he started in 56. And that starting lineup, the last time he came off the bench, was Grayson, Book, Brooks, Royce, and Oso. So ever since then, and that was a loss to the Nuggets, Collin came off the bench and had 12 points on 4 of 8 from 3. But there's iterations of that, right? If you just in your mind and do the mental exercise, just replace Grayson with Jalen. That's kind of what we've thought about, or replace Royce with. And I thought Royce was going to stay in the starting lineup. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to look at the box score tonight too. And Royce played all but 4 seconds in the fourth quarter last game in Orlando. I want to say, 17 minutes.
He was there 5.
17 minutes tonight for him. So he basically only played 5 more minutes all game than he did in the fourth quarter of last game against Orlando. Obviously, different circumstances, different situations, but that more than anything is indicative of a staff that is trying to figure out exactly what button they want to press. And quite frankly, the buttons tonight did not work, as we can tell by the result. And for all this we've talked about, there's 2 parts that I want to add to it. The Hornets aren't a bad team at all. The Hornets team that we saw tonight is the team that we talked them up to be a couple weeks ago, and we didn't see that version of that team. And that is, I think, why the Suns needed to come with it a little more, because this was a big test for them. And obviously they did not pass that. But I do want to give credit where it's due, because the Hornets fully took advantage of all of the advantages that they have over the Suns team and the Suns roster.
Yeah, let's get to a couple super chats here.
And for y'all in the chat, it's Michael. If you ever have a chance to speak with Michael Malone and you call him the 4 letters of his full first name, not going to get it done. That's not a way to set a tone for that conversation. You will get checked quickly.
I'm just going to say, man, it's down bad time when we're talking about Michael Malone in chat. Riddle celebrates 3 months of membership. Thank you, Riddle. We appreciate you. Always consistent with the super chats. Of course, now a member too for 3 months. Says we need to stay patient. The Phoenix Suns are still figuring out who stays and who goes while protecting their core from injury. It's a good point, Riddle. I agree. I think the person here who's the most frustrated, and I told you guys this before I went on the show, that I still do believe in this version of this team. I do believe they'll play better in the playoffs. I have a couple of concerns and complaints, but it is a tough situation, and this team has earned a little bit of grace, but that grace is getting thinner and thinner.
Riddle, I pose a question to you, but also pose it to you guys as well, as we kind of start to swing to some positivity after certain comments and things. 5 games left. What do you want to see that you feel good?
A healthy Jordan Goodwin. Because Jordan Goodwin came down with a left calf injury per Jordan Ott when he left the game. That is, to me, in all of this crap the last 2 months, Jordan Goodwin's been one of the Suns' best players and one of the most consistent. I want to see him out there and healthy. And personally, I just like to see that fight again, that defensive way. I think the offense, Steven, in a one-game scenario or in a playoff scenario, I'm not too worried about the Suns' offense. I feel like they've got gamers, right? Like I think Book and Brooks, those are guys that are going to go out there. They're going to be gamers. I feel the same way about Jalen. I think Grayson is the same way. I think Collin is. I need to see them get back to that identity that established the standard for them going into the end of 2025 and that fantastic month at the beginning of 2026. That's what I need to see these last 5 games.
I do have questions offensively, and I've spoken about those quite often, especially if it's more one-shot offense and their offensive rebounding is still top 6, but not top 3 and burgeoning top 2, borderline top 1 like it was through the month of December through that hellacious schedule and the month of January through that hellacious schedule. If you're losing slippage on the amount of possessions that you're gaining, and that's also coming in tandem with the slippage being lost on the turnovers you're forcing upon your opponents as well, how are you making up for those possessions? And that's the kind of overarching question I pose. But offensively, they have to continue to get into their sets quicker. It wasn't as much of a problem tonight per se, but we still see some of the compounding effect of in those windows when they're not doing that and they're also not playing off of stops. That builds up and it starts to weigh on them. Independent of any opponents, though, I mentioned it after our last post game. Michael Jackson, man in the mirror, yes, all of that. Ayrton, we can go ahead and get the number for tonight's game for me up. So the Suns, excluding opening night, where they gave up 116 points to Sacramento. So excluding that game, 4-19 in the 23 games that they've played where they've given up 116 or more points. That is not a recipe for success for this team. Can they win games playing a shoot 'em up type of West Coast affair? They've shown to be able to win games on numerous terms. A high-scoring affair is not one that they've consistently shown. Y'all want to go to the 120 club? Bet we can do that too, and we can go see about it at the end of the game. That's not how that typically works for them. And that's all of these numbers that I keep bringing up about their defense being where it was and the kind of sub numbers defensively, like their point of attack when they're picking up across half court, how long it takes opponents to get into actions and all of that. All of that stuff is with great intention because their margin for error with that side of the basketball is this slim. And if you can't really see it, there's really not any space between my index finger and my thumb at that present moment. And that's because they have to thread the needle. And the only way for them to thread that needle, they have to be at an elite level defense, no less than top 10. Eric, you talked about their numbers since February. The defense since February has not been even close to top 10. It's been more top 15 than top 10. And that is enough slippage in tandem with the offensive rebounding falling off some and the turnovers force falling off some to be a perfect storm for inconsistency 500 type basketball that we've seen in this window.
So real quick before we hit a break here, because we have to hit a break, I want to read Chris's $20 super chat. Thank you, Chris, for a $20 super chat. That's fantastic.
What up, Chris? Appreciate you, bro.
I want to make sure that everyone understands these are Chris's words. Ott has to knock it off with these small ball 3-4 guard lineups. Also, why didn't Malawach play until garbage time? I just found out he has the best rim defensive field goal percentage post All-Star break. Bad coaching, Ott. I hear what you're saying. I think you've probably heard me say similar things to what you're saying with Kaman. It's tough. I think he's been good in his minutes. I'm not surprised he didn't really play as much tonight. He wasn't in the rotation when there were 2 centers on this team. I hear you, though. I hear you.
I'll say I got yelled at all off season after the Kevin Durant trade because I said Dillon Brooks was going to be the starting forward for the Suns coming into the season, as in the power forward position. Dillon Brooks is a guard. Woo, woo, woo. You're right. I didn't say you were wrong, but I'm talking about who's the most apt at guarding that particular position because of his positional size, but also just his competitive motor. That's Dillon Brooks. Fast forward to the season, who's been starting at the 4 for the Suns this entire year? Dillon Brooks. There's inherently going to be size that you're conceding when you're starting someone that you all told me in the offseason was a guard at the 4. Dillon Brooks, on his best day, his tallest day is 6'7". He's really closer to 6'6". That inherently puts your team behind the 8 ball on size, even if you have Wemby at the 5. If you have Dillon Brooks at the 4 and everybody else underneath Dillon Brooks is shorter and smaller in descending order, you're going to be at a size disadvantage. You look past the starting lineup, and you look and see how many players in the Suns rotation are bigger than Dillon Brooks. Oso Ighodaro, Rasheer Fleming, ... Look around, is man playing 8 minutes? If he's in the lineup viably, that's 3 players. So you only have 3 players outside of your starting lineup that are giving you more size than your starting 4. And then you look at what kind of players within those players that I'm speaking to outside of Dillon Brooks can spend time on the court with Mark Williams. Maybe one of those guys.
Yeah.
And that's Rasheer Fleming.
Who is
That's the
not really in the rotation.
Correct.
When this team's healthy.
That's the inherent issue that you just come into a season after a big trade that you had to make. That's what it is. You have to deal with that. So 3 and 4 guard lineups is inherently what this team has to run because they don't have any other options as far as that goes.
Yeah, let's hit a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to get some positivity, and then don't worry, we'll get back to the negativity sandwich after that, but all after this. Here's a negativity sandwich for you. It's going to be hot as hell pretty soon, and our friends over at APS, well, they understand that it is hot. And when it gets hotter, Gil, you'll realize this over here, that AC, well, it's running more. And
I feel like you got thrown on the gill.
Yeah, you'll get thrown on the gill. And unfortunately, sometimes it feels like your wallet, it's got burning a hole in it. But with our friends over at APS, they make it a lot better because they have a couple different options for you to save money, like a rate plan option, which allows you to look back at your last couple of months of spending and then compare what you would have spent with all the different types of plans that they offer. Therefore, you could choose going forward the plan that best fits your spending and, of course, energy usage patterns. Or there's budget billing options, my personal favorite option, where they take your payment out for a year, they average it, and then they say you're going to pay around the same amount every month, so it's a lot easier to budget, to plan, and to look forward and ahead. Learn more about managing your bill at aps.com/let's talk. That's aps.com/let's talk. Let's talk. You and me, guys. Some of these people in the chat, I say this with love. Y'all need some Pure Edibles in your life. Specifically the relaxed version of Pure Edibles. Because Pure Edibles, well, not only do they just taste delicious because they are a candy company, well, they make you feel delicious as well. Blending CBN, CBG, CBD, marijuana-derived THC, all in one little piece of candy, whether it's a gummy, a kick, which is their version of Starburst, chews, or hard candies. It delivers you the exact effects that you want because it's all labeled right there on the tin. Gone are the days of indica, sativa, hybrid. You have on the labeling sleepy, relaxed, uplifted, balanced, whatever you want. Pure Edibles wants to make sure that you get that effect from the edible. Plus, Pure gummies are designed to be ripped or bit in half, making them easily shareable or easy to dial in your exact dose. So go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries across Arizona. We are going to get back to some more comments in here, super chats, what we want to see from the Suns. There is some positive stuff that I would like us to talk about. Let's talk about our Dude of the Night, presented by our friends over at Gila River Resorts Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts Casinos. Has played Gila.com for more details. It is Jalen Green, 34 minutes tonight, 25 points, 10 of 19 from the field, 3 of 6 from deep, ultra efficient night from Jalen Green, only shooting 2 free throws, which, by the way, was the
ethical hoops at its finest.
The second highest on the team, by the way, 2 free throws. 2 of the Suns' 10 free throws that they took tonight. 4 rebounds, also led the team in assists with 7 assists tonight. 3 turnovers, which for Jalen Green is pretty damn good. 2 steals and a block as well. I feel like defensively, Gil, this was also a great game from Jalen Green. Unfortunately, the Suns got this game in a loss, but I would not put this one on Jalen.
Not putting it on Jalen Green, and, it's a response from Tuesday, which wasn't great for him. He'd admit it wasn't great. The coaches admitted it wasn't great. They wanted to see something different, and he did not close that game. He finished with 8 points on 3 of 10 shooting and didn't play very much in that game. So the question was going to be, is he going to bounce back from that, or is he going to let those poor performances compound? And it was the former tonight. And you mentioned some of the plays that he made defensively. I remember I talked about how physical he was playing. As a on-ball defender, he had that play where he got the interception and went coast to coast, and there was another one where you commented, Stephen, that he made a really great read in transition. I think it was Mark that he found for one of his 7 assists in the game. So, it maybe is one of those situations when you talk about the dynamic between him and Devin Booker and Dillon Brooks in the starting lineup. They all were clicking in the first quarter, but then after that, Devin had his moments, but Dillon didn't really get going anymore after that. And this is part of the process of them figuring each other out. And sometimes things get a little worse before they get better. And to see him have a good game is some positive to hang on to say, okay, we've seen Devin have a big game in this version of starting lineup. Now we've seen Jalen have a good game in this version of starting lineup. Can we see Dillon do it? And can we see them all figure out how to do it at the same time together? So part of the process, and hopefully they can build on it as a group.
Yeah, I enjoyed Jalen Green's game tonight. I start with the defensive end because that's the side that he chose to speak to when I talked to him after their most recent home game. And he talked about taking ownership on that side, understanding that he sees a lot of the chatter and people questioning his abilities on that side. He said he always feels like he competes on that end. And I think tangibly in terms of film that we've been able to glean and assess over the last 2 weeks, he's been very active, but not just active. He's added impact to what he's been doing, making timely decisions. I'm thinking about in the first quarter, he has a pill switch with Dillon Brooks that ends up forcing the Hornets to flatten their offense out, ends up leading to a missed shot, and then the Suns are out on the race in that 41-point quarter that they had. Also has some good individual moments defensively, sometimes navigating screens, sometimes just simply guarding his yard, and then getting up a solid contest, which sometimes that leads to a shot being made, but that speaks more so to the all-time level of consistent talent and shot making that the league has now than bad defense. Jalen's been solid defensively for this team. If he's doing that consistently, they're in a position to get to where they want to be come postseason play. And to the offensive side, or also defensively, he's been consistently hitting the boards as well. Very important for a team that is bottom third in terms of defensive rebound rate. Having more guys chip in, especially someone like Jalen, who, if he's grabbing boards, no need for outlet pass because it's zoom, zoom, zoom. And you're going 0 to 100 in the transition, and that's where he's been at his best for the team, which lends itself to trending to offense. The drives. 15 points on 14 drives tonight, had 3 blow-bys. Tons of good decisions made when he did get downhill. Gets a switch with Musa Diabate off of some zoom action. Takes his time, let the dust settle on the spacing to open up as much of that as he can get. And then he works his way downhill and gets all the way to the basket. Teams start to shift knowing that he wants to get to the paint because he can win one-on-one. And now that opens up a different outlet for them to trigger their blender. Jalen gets 2 to the ball late at the paint because they know he wants to get to the basket. If he makes the smart decision for the most open player to get it to them, they're able to either play off a direct closeout or make the next decision that leads to someone else getting a wide open shot opportunity. That's the type of offense the Suns need. He's been doing a great job of kind of dictating the terms of play when he does get it, and I've loved his attention to detail with getting downhill. He's been really good with that the last, 3 to 4 weeks now at this point?
He looks like himself. That's the nice part where I think he's defending really well because he feels like himself, right? He feels athletic, he feels bouncy, and he feels like he can go get his own on offense, and he's just kind of carrying that juice about him when he's playing. And so, unfortunately, an ultra-efficient night, another great night for Jalen Green. Would love to see it come in a win. Hopefully It does on Sunday.
I don't think that would swing his approach, though. I think
he's
I'm not saying you're saying that either, but I just, to your point, you want to see them stacking positive play if he's playing that well.
And Jalen's had some of the most impressive offensive games that I've seen just from a shot making perspective, honestly, in my time of being a Phoenix Suns fan, just in his short run up here these last couple of months of him being healthy. What I am most impressed by Jalen Green is his defense and his defensive intensity. That has really been, to me, his most consistent feature. And if you told me that 7 or 8 months ago, I would have been shocked. So really enjoying that from Jalen Green. Any other thoughts about Jalen?
I mean, you and I talked about Jalen's defense over the summer.
He was part of one of the best defense in the NBA last year. He was a part of that.
People talking about Jalen's a cone and this, that, and the third. We haven't seen it since he's been a Sun, and we also didn't see it last season. If anything, his one weakness defensively is when he's off the ball, knowing where his teammate is as he's glancing to see what's happening so that he can make help decisions. But guess what? 95% of the NBA struggles with that. The other part of it, too, is trying to navigate screens when you're chasing Stephen Curry around. Not ideal for anybody in the NBA. Lou Dort wouldn't choose that matchup if he had a choice in who he could guard if it's not Steph Curry. So that says a lot about that part of it. That's not something that anybody really has kind of notable success with. So we can ease up on that and acknowledge the effort and the intent behind those efforts as far as how we're gauging that.
And he jumped the passing lane, got a steal, and dunked on a foot. Yeah,
and it's a dunk. Yeah.
So Jalen,
no one else on the Suns is doing that.
No,
the steal and then the handle in transition into the dunk. That's different.
Jalen was very good tonight. Also, a good play. I love the play presented by our friends over the Arizona Lottery. Play and gift today. Now, look, I know we could give this to Collin Gillespie's record-breaking 3. Again, I think we saved the last end of this show to talk about that. I want to give it to Mark Williams, who had a blocked dunk and then poster in consecutive plays in his first game back in 20 minutes. And for that reason and for many reasons, he is our blue-collar boy of the night. Mark Williams, a solid return, 20 minutes, Gil, 12 points, 6 of 7 from the field, 4 rebounds, an assist, a steal, and 3 blocks. What were your takeaways from Mark's return tonight?
Well, first off, welcome back. Mark Williams, missed watching you play, and the love to play kind of highlights what we talked about, what we wanted to see from him before the game, and that was activity and energy. And we saw that in a lot of spots tonight. And, the second, third jump is part of the things that kind of come with your agility and you're getting your wind back. But that he had the first one, that he had the ability to, be a rim deterrent, that he had the ability to run the floor. There was one play I remember pointing out. And again, there's a play that Sion James probably makes regardless. He kicked out to the corner, but he got the ball in the middle of the lane. Mark was there in the right spot, was there for help. And Sion was like, let me kick it out to the corner. And the Hornets weren't able to get the shot to go. So little things like that are the small parts and the margins where we talked about his presence was very much missed because he's that big of a figure, because he takes up that kind of space. So to see Mark back, and honestly, for the most part, I think he looked pretty comfortable out on the court as well. So there wasn't an issue of, oh, man, there's a lot of rust he's going to have to get rid of or shake off, or he just doesn't look like himself out there. He looked like himself, like he's loading to get back to 100%, but that's to be expected. He's missed 15 games. So one step in the right direction. From what I understand, there were no setbacks with him physically. So I expect to see more of the same to stack on this performance. And then once his workload can increase again, continue to build on what he's doing and then key in on the things that he's doing really well and do it more at a higher rate.
Yeah, I think he looked comfortable as well. Obviously, there's going to be inherent rust, if you will, in terms of your game process, having been back in the fire for the first time. But I felt like he looked healthy. And like we talked about in the pregame, that was my overarching goal. The rust is inherent. That's inevitable. That's going to happen. Does he look healthy? Does he look like himself? And I think we were all probably not ahead at whether we felt like he looked healthy, he looked like himself or not tonight. In multiple moments, multiple documentable moments, to Eric's point. So A+ on the return. Just getting out of it healthy and looking like yourself was more than enough for me. Now you look at the impact in terms of numbers. You talked about, 12 points today and how many rebounds? 4?
Only 4 rebounds tonight.
12 points, 4 rebounds. We know rebounding isn't necessarily his strength, but that's something that his teammates can certainly help him out with, considering who he was going up against tonight, and Ryan Kalkbrenner and Moussa Diabate for the most part. So solid showing for Mark Williams in his initial game back. I'm looking forward to seeing him build on top of that and get closer to that guy that we saw him be for them in the December and January stretch of the schedule.
Felt like right before he got injured, it was like where's the bounce, right? Where's that energy? Where's that kind of that Mark Williams would always bring? And I felt like he had that tonight. It's encouraging. You would like him to be able to play more than 20 minutes. He was pulled right at 20 minutes on the dot. Understandable. Having him out there just made a difference. And I don't think he would be playing right now, either because of his agent or because of the team, if he was not more than 100% healthy. So good stuff from Mark Williams. Like you mentioned, we'll be following along for the Bulls. Before we talk about Collin, I got a little more negativity hour to get here because I want to end on a positive note. That's why I want to wait to talk about Collin. Let's get to our pre-game pick tracker. Yeah, trust me, I hear you. With our friends over at Bet365. Of course, Bet365, where winning is everything. Download the app, use code PHNX365 and sign up today. Gil, you're still in the lead. Still in danger of going negative for the win at a plus 46.72. Espo and I's big swings did not work out tonight. Ayrton, I believe, did not hit his bet either, unfortunately. So that is our Bet365 pregame picks tracker. Again, Bet365.
He got a smoker in his back pocket.
Where winning is everything. Download the app, use code PHNX365 and sign up today.
Yeah, I'm worried. All it takes is one, and that swings everything.
Technically, all it takes is one from any of us.
That is true.
Just a bigger one.
Oh yeah, some you gotta swing a little.
I swung. I felt okay about my bet today. And there was a point where Dillon Brooks and Brandon Miller were trading buckets, and the game was kind of close, and I was like, oh, didn't happen. But you know what?
And you missed yours by what? You said 4 Booker points?
3 Booker points? 22. I needed to get 25.
Tough, man.
Yeah, it is tough
for sure.
You know who did do what they needed to do tonight? Collin Gillespie. Collin Gillespie, come on.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Congratulations, young man.
Collin Gillespie made Phoenix Suns history tonight. He set the single season record for most three-pointers made in a Phoenix Suns season at 227 in his first year on a standard contract in the NBA. Truly one of the best stories. I know that we had a lot of conversations earlier in the show about what would be the best way to utilize him, maybe what we want to see from him. But at the end of the day, this guy has done something that I don't think will maybe ever be done again, because we saw Collin set a three-point record for the Hornets on the same night tonight as a rookie. We might see rookies set three-point records again. I don't know if we'll ever see somebody go through the path that we saw Collin Gillespie go through the G League, multiple franchises, and then in his first year on a minimum standard contract, break a franchise record for three-pointers made. Truly incredible.
Yeah, that's a hell of a stat. It's a reminder of his story, his journey to get to this point. I mean, even if this time last year, obviously well before I got here, but had I asked you guys or mentioned you guys, Collin Gillespie is going to end up being the single season record holder for threes in a season in the franchise history, it would probably sound pretty wild. It sound pretty crazy, especially when he didn't hear his name called on draft night and he started with a different franchise and all of that. But I think that what it just speaks to, he's just yet another example. For one, listen, if your situation is delayed, it's not necessarily denied. And you have a situation, you got to keep putting the work in, put your head down. And that just speaks to, we've seen so many success stories using the G League and two-way contracts and that pipeline to becoming a contributor in the league. But this is more than just contributing. He has rewritten the Phoenix Suns history book, which I don't want people to lose sight of how significant that was, because it was like a 21-year-old record.
Quentin
Richardson said it like 05, I think
Yeah.
he did. So a 21-year-old record that he set as an undrafted player with his second NBA franchise and is due for a much bigger payday after continuing to put the work in, trusting his process and figuring things out, and now he's here.
He's ascended from, let's see what he's got. Let's see if he like what his staying power is, to no, this dude belongs. And I feel like this is just an example, or this is just a moment of alignment for him in particular that gives him even more credence to showing that he indeed just belongs.
Yeah.
You don't happenstancely just kind of stumble your way into a franchise leading record for threes made in a season. I'd like to take a trip down memory lane a little bit with Collin. So just think about some of the threes that he's made. Is he just shooting wide open catch and shoot?
Oh, hell no.
No, he's not.
In fact, I beg to differ. I don't know if he's shot many, if any, standstill catch and shoot threes this season. It feels like with all of the threes that he's knocked down, there's been some form of subtle relocation, subtle movement, improving the passing lane for someone to get it to him.
Dare I say some type of motion?
Some type of motion. That's funny. But yeah, just whether he's improving a passing lane or he's just creating separation from someone that's trying to help on the Devin or Jalen or Dillon or Grayson. Sound like I'm talking about Santa's reindeers at this point, but that's what he does. He just creates extra space, and he's very comfortable shooting going either direction. For someone whose first full season in the main rotation of a roster to have a statistical feat like this is not like normal.
No.
This is not normal at all. And I beg to say, there's still some that's been left in the bag, in the chamber, as far as how much further along this beaten path he could potentially be. He's been on a little bit of a drought prior to the last, 2.5 games now? Mm-hmm. Imagine if he sustained at a level that he showed to be at a majority of the season. He would have knocked this out 2.5 weeks ago. Yeah. And that wouldn't have come as a surprise to any of us. And what I mean by that when I bring it up is he's had to step up in so many different ways for this team. This team was built for him to be the third or fourth guard. You have Devin, you have Jalen, you have Devin, Jalen, and Grayson. Coming into the season, we didn't have Collin firmly ahead of any of those guys. The one person we talked about was Grayson. We said Grayson gets the nod because of the veteran know-how. Cool. Collin is now ascended to where on any given night, he could close over a Grayson. He could close over a Jalen at times. Now, obviously, Devin is not replaceable in that respect, but that speaks more to Collin's growth and his viability with this team. Him being able to knock down those shots in pick and roll, as well as off the ball, is special. And I think the other part of that allows for him to hit this record too is the defense. If he's not good enough on the margins defensively, he's not able to play enough minutes to have this type of impact. Everything kind of comes full circle for him. Congratulations to him.
Last year, Collin Gillespie played in 33 games for the Suns, started 9 of them, averaged 14 minutes per game, 5.9 points per game, shot 43.3% from deep on 2.7 attempts. Okay. This year, Collin Gillespie has played 75 games. He has started 56 of them, hasn't been off the bench since November, as Gil pointed out earlier. He's averaging 28.9 minutes per game, so that's over double the minutes per game that he played last year. He's shooting 40.9% from deep on 7.3 attempts per game, and that's gone down significantly over the last couple of weeks because of his cold stretch. So he's shooting a relatively similar percent from 3, over doubling his attempts. Not to mention he's now averaging 13.1 points per game, which is over double the points per game. He's also averaging 4.1 rebounds instead of 2.4 last year, and 4.8 assists to 2.4 assists. And for good measure, why not average over a steal per game as well, and only 1.6 turnovers per game? An incredibly positive basketball player that I think is being a little misutilized right now, but he is going to get paid
this one.
this summer.
When we were talking about the 3-point shooting, I just wanted to look. 29 games this season with 4 or more made threes. The Suns are 20-9 in those games, by the way. The Suns are 20-9.
They need him. They need him to do well in the play-in. They need him to go off and hit 4 or 5 threes.
Right. I mean, obviously no surprise that, oh, hey, this guy's knocking down threes at a high rate. Our team does better when he does it. But like that, like is such an incredible record. It speaks to, you know, how honestly he is in many ways the definition of an X factor, right? When this guy is going, everything else can start to go. And obviously you got to talk about 2 games this year with 8 made 3-pointers, and just happened to be 1 in LA and 1 in Portland, road games in front of national TV audiences. So that's pretty big time.
NBC.
I was gonna say real quick too. I think. Do you all know what the average height in the NBA is? Isn't it like 6'5"?
It's like 6'6", I think. Yeah,
6'6", close to 6'6". Collin's 6'3".
No, he's not.
That's what he's listed as. I'll stand next to Collin. I'm 5'9". They have him listed at 6'3". I'll say 6'3" for reference purposes. But bringing that in, average height for the league, what his listed height is, the offensive rebound rate.
Oh, yeah.
Having 3.7% of the non-garbage time misses that the Suns have when he's on the floor, 85th percentile. As someone that in 95% of the lineups that he's involved with is the smallest player on the court. Again, speaking of how he gets to knocking down his record and having the minutes total and volume to do so, he doesn't get there without having these margins be impacted consistently from him. That just speaks a lot to what he is, which is just a winner, flat out.
He's great. We'll obviously talk more about Collin Gillespie as the season goes on. Much deserved congratulations to Collin Gillespie. Let's read Super Chat and members chat here before we get out of here. Aiden celebrates 3 months of membership. Thank you so much. Aiden says, improvement defensively, effort-wise, more fluidity offensively is what I'd like to see in the next 5 games leading into the play-in and playoffs. I think those are totally understandable requests. Hopefully, you've been able to get a lot off your chest tonight, Aiden. We appreciate you always being
I echo
in here.
those sentiments, Aiden.
Yeah, I think we all want to see that. Teddy, with the 199 Super Chat, always good to see you here. Teddy says, why doesn't Dunn play more? I just wanted to get us out of here on a quote from Jordan Ott. This, of course, courtesy of Dwayne Rankin, who travels and covers the team, does a great job. Jordan Ott on playing Ryan Dunn and Rasheer Fleming as Suns had smaller lineups in 127-107 loss to the Hornets. Quote, yeah, totally. We're tossing all that around. We're trying to see the group right now as we're fitting parts back into it. Ryan has sat out the last couple of games. I think everything is on the table. Definitely got to contain the basketball better. And then also on being physical regardless of who is on the floor. Quote, we'll have to take a look. What hurt us was the middle pick and roll, small pick and roll. That hurt us there in the stretch. That's 2 smalls, and they were able to beat us off the bounce and get to the rim. Everything is on the table. We're trying to figure this thing out on the fly, and that's what I just said. We've got to expedite it. There's no excuse. We just have to figure it out.
That's exactly what we talked about on the live show. I mentioned they hit the Suns over the top with that small pick and roll to get their guards downhill. Probably about 10 to 12 possessions. Now, in the grand scheme of a 90 to 100 possession game for each individual team, you might be thinking 12 possessions is not a lot. If they score on all 12 of those possessions, that points per possession mark, even on a small sample size, significantly shifts things. And at the microcosm or at the forefront of it, It's their smalls not being physical enough just by my watching eye from tonight's game in those kind of small pick and roll moments. Ryan Dunn is someone that could certainly help with that. We saw one rep where Rasheer Fleming was very successful with that with Jalen Green. Fights over their initial screen, forces them to have to set a second one, and because they have to set the second one, they're better prepared to execute on the back end, and they get a stop. That's one example of it. But the guys that are in the rotation have to be better. Otherwise, somebody like Ryan Dunn, who was in the stay ready group, when he gets an opportunity, will eventually have a chance to prove his worth there.
Creme de la Creme says, quote, "We have to figure it out. Oh boy, that doesn't sound good. What do you want him to say? Everything's fine?" Like, yeah, he's saying that there's a problem, but he's also not going to tell everybody the solution to the problem because that's not what NBA coaches do in post-game press conferences. Appreciate you being here, though, Creme de la Creme. Also, hi, Megan. Let's get some more super chats in here. Appreciate the compliment. This one from Anthony with a $1.99 super chat says, "Bucket hat decent at pickup LA Fitness basketball."
Appreciate it, bro.
Name is Steven, but yes, you are correct. I think Gil's probably pretty good, too.
Decent. I'm all right.
All right. Riddle with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Riddle. Says, "Guys, I'll be at the Suns game versus the Rockets, but I just wanted to say F them Lakers. Good to see them get." Okay, I'm not gonna say that. But
I'm glad you looked ahead before
hey,
that.
Riddle.
Hit the brakes
Sure.
right
Yeah.
there. Perfect.
Riddle,
He avoided the charge.
Yeah.
Riddle, I'll be at that game too.
He
If you
definitely
see me,
did.
say hi, Riddle. You're always in here. We appreciate you being in here. We will be there. Megan in there saying we'll be there. So come say hi if you see us. Also, Coach Ock got a technical, maybe kind of today.
We think.
That was, I guess, kind of fun.
Sure, maybe.
Maybe. Would have been nice if it like rallied the troops. Gentlemen,
It
we
would
got a
have been
show.
nice if we had clarity on who actually got that.
That is
for
also
sure.
true.
That's the other part.
We'll have a show tomorrow, so obviously a lot more to dive into. I have a feeling probably not gonna be like a hope and joy show tomorrow, I would assume. We'll also wait for
No
updates.
spoilers. Come through and find out.
Yeah, you got to come through and find out. I mean, you'll kind of get spoiled because the headline and the thumbnail will be in there beforehand, but you never know what we might say.
Or we might just say, "Is it sunshine and rainbows on the other side of this?"
Ooh, people get mad. I kind of like that.
Trigger.
We're going to have to see, obviously, where we're at. 5 games left in the season, and we're going to be here for every single one of them, plus, of course, the play-in, and hopefully the playoffs as well, all right here on PHNX Suns. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, follow us at PHNX_Suns. That's on Twitter and on Instagram as well. Shout out to Freckled Mamba behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. We appreciate him. You can follow him at Freckled Mamba. You can
Yeah,
follow
he cool or whatever.
Yeah, he's fine. You can follow Bucket Hat, who's good at LA Fitness pickup basketball at StephenPG3. That's Stephen with a PH. You can follow Gil at GilMcGregor_. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. We'll be back tomorrow to say nothing but nice things about the Phoenix Suns.
We all silly like the mayor.